This is Niceguy Eddie, and you're listening to Rainbow Radio. Welcome to In My Humble Opinion. You might remember that 2 weeks ago we were joined by Julie Ray Goldstein, who is is the lead actress in the project Gen Zed. I'm joined tonight by the lead 3D animator, Terra Snover, who you might remember we had on the show back on the 21st of July. We were talking about her webcomic Mock Girl at the time. And also with us is Hayden Black, the writer, creator, director, actor, and I'm sure plumber and carpenter and many other roles related to the series Gen Zed. So Terra, Hayden, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Nice to be back.
So, Hayden, I want to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and what motivated you to create the series?
Well, let's see. From England, my eyes give me away every time. Moved to America many years ago. So I spent my life kind of growing up with one foot in both cultures, which has been interesting. Mm-hmm. And I do comedy. I do a lot of comedy. I did a show called Goodnight Burbank, which was I think one of the first half-hour shows Hulu did, and Mark Cuban picked it up to go to television, to go to cable TV, HDNet. That was back in 2011. Mm-hmm. And as a Doctor Who fan, I contributed to a book called Behind the Sofa: Celebrity Memories of Doctor Who, which was a dream in and of itself. In that, I was in a book with Neil Gaiman and Charlie Brooker and stuff. It was just phenomenal. And then Gen Zed came along, which is a script I wrote just over a year ago now, and I was just interested in watching and seeing how people kind of growing up with having just been immersed in tech their whole lives, mm-hmm. How that affected them as they kind of entered the real world. So kind of inspired by The Young Ones, another great British comedy.
Yes.
I put together a show about 4 college-age kids, not all of them are in college, mm-hmm. Who meet playing, online video games, and who get together, and they're all social misfits to one degree or another, mm-hmm. and they're all going to find out kind of how to live together and work together if they want to get anywhere in this world.
Okay, and it's pretty obvious from the start. It's a very diverse cast, and a very talented cast and crew. Some real, I was reading over from the website, a lot of credits to everyone's name. I mean, that's definitely a professional cast that you've got here. And I know from speaking with Julie 2 weeks ago that authenticity was also very important. I'm curious how you found the casting process to be for this.
I cast like I'm doing a jigsaw puzzle. I cast within a network of people that I know. Mm-hmm. I don't use a casting agent. I use people I know, friends of friends, that kind of thing.
Right.
Bring people in, read them, see what it sounds like. In some cases, like, for example, John Keating, who plays Huey, he initially came on board. I wasn't sure what to do with John initially, mm-hmm. Because we had somebody else in mind for Huey. That didn't work out, and John, was just fantastic and was Huey. Julie was the first actress that we auditioned for the role of Shona, mm-hmm. and Julie just knocked it out of the park. Julie's ability to... This is not just an average comedy. There's a lot of... We do pause and let the emotional moments play out.
Right.
Some of the darker emotional moments. And so all of the characters have to know when to hit the gas and when to hit the brakes.
Right.
And Julie, when she came in, she did it effortlessly. She just got the script. She got it immediately. Mm-hmm. Emily Chang, who plays Betsy, I met her when we were both in LA Comedy Shorts Festival, I think, a couple of years ago. We both had stuff playing in the festival. Mm. And I saw her stuff and just thought, she's talented. I'd like to add her to my Rolodex of people to work with one day,
right?
Which I call Facebook. And and we did. And then Kevin Richmond came on board, who plays Cameron. I reached out to a friend of mine who is kind of a manager and works with a lot of African-American talent, and told him what we were looking for. He sent me a few people, and just literally just watching their reels. When I came to Kevin's, I was like, oh my God, that's Cameron right there. Right. We found him. And they were all very excited to work on the show. And then we've got some other amazing talent like Paul Calder, who, edited every single episode of Futurama, edits the show.
Oh, wow.
Alex Bradley is our amazing designer, lead designer and animator. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think who I'm forgetting. Well, of course, Terra is with us, who's a phenomenal 3D artist. We've got like these amazing cameos from Jake Weedland and Richard Schiff and Hal Sparks and Matthew Del Negro and Miracle Laurie. So it's a fairly well-rounded show with just lots of amazingly talented and just wonderful human beings that are a part of it.
Yeah. And it's now one of the things, again, as far as the diversity goes, I mean, it's racially diverse. It's good mix of male and female characters. Of course, the transgender character. Was this a conscious decision on your part? Did it just? I mean, how did you?
Hold on there. What's this about a transgender character?
Just a vicious rumor I heard. You know, I mean, I don't know how that will play with the fundamentalists over here, but
I'd ask if I care. If you don't like something, don't watch it. You know, it's really that simple.
You'd think that would be enough. I mean,
the stuff that I generally write has a diverse, cast to it. I think that being a straight white male, straight white cisgender male is. I've seen enough of me to last a lifetime. And if I get tired of anybody else, I just have to look in the mirror and I'm bored all over again.
Right. Okay.
I wanted to, these kids moving together into downtown LA. Downtown LA is a melting pot regardless. I wanted a cast that reflected that. Mm-hmm. And the thing is people's stories are so wonderful and unique and fantastic. And they all need telling, And I wanted to tell the story of a trans girl who wants to be a stand-up comic, of an African-American kid who's been raised in the foster care system in LA and has been abused. I wanted to tell the story of an Asian-American girl who, is as kind of valley girl as you get, but has been reared by a multimillionaire who, instead of giving her love, has just thrown money at her.
Yes.
And that's how she deals with the world, through money and prescription drugs. And then this guy, Huey, who's been raised in a broken home where Fox News has been blaring 24/7. Who are these people? What are their stories? And what happens when they come together? Right. When all those four people come together. And I think that's where you get stuff that's really original and unique and compelling. And because look, the concept of four people living together ain't particularly original.
You don't say.
There's nothing unique about that particular part of the show in the slightest.
Right.
It's the players that make this what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
I got to throw something in here real quick about this too. Hayden is amazing when it comes to this kind of thing too, because he actually reaches out to different communities and everything like that.
Yes.
To see how they react, because he said he's a white cisgender male, and I know a lot of people out there give like guff for that, like, oh, how can you write diversity?
Right.
Hayden reaches out to so many people and asks their opinions and finds out the struggles in their life and really gets in and works with that and writes it into the script.
So you don't end up with a Stonewall movie starring a lot of gay white males.
No, although that actually is probably my next project.
I think they beat you to it, unfortunately.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I'm glad, and clearly my check cleared, so I'm glad that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a great lead in, because I want to ask Terra. First of all, Terra, I got to apologize because you told me about this project. You kind of hooked me up a little bit with Julie, and then of course Hayden, and I was completely oblivious to the fact, or to even the possibility, or to even think to ask that you had any personal involvement in the project as well. I don't know. You caught me on a particularly oblivious day, I suppose. But for the benefit of anyone who missed the last appearance, tell us a little bit about your background again, and kind of how you came to be involved in this project.
Well, okay. My background is mostly in comics and new media. If anyone doesn't know what new media is basically like interactive spaces, environments, that type of thing. Anytime you see one of those projections on a building or something that does all this cool, like moving and morphing and everything, that's new media.
Okay.
And with that, I started exploring 3D and game design. I've been doing that kind of thing for years. And so that led me to, do game design. And so I reached the 3D world. And then, so how I got connected with Gen Zed, though, is actually a funny story. Oh. I saw posts on it. I think initially a Twitter post or two.
Okay.
Caught my attention. And then so I followed and liked and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And then the trailer for the show came out, and oh man, did the hate come out of the woodworks. And so I was just getting really annoyed with it. I'm like, oh geez, why do people have to be so mean about something that's a 2-minute trailer?
Right.
So I just drew a little picture of the main character.
That's right.
Saying, hey, why don't we wait till the show comes out until we call it 100% ass?
I remember seeing that. Yes.
And so I just put it up there on a lark, just this could be fun.
Right.
And then on a just off the cuff note, they're like, oh, this is a really good drawing. Why aren't you working for us? And then the question was raised, why aren't I working for them?
Right. Right.
And so we talked and got to know each other and found out that I had skills that they were missing in the project, and I was already a fan of the show, so it just seemed like a good connection. So we hooked up. I started doing the 3D things for their show, and here we are.
Awesome. So
the talent is unbelievable. I'm so lucky and blessed that Terra, made that drawing initially. It was just fantastic.
I do remember when she posted it, actually. I remember it coming up, and that's kind of, I was like, oh, yeah, let me check this out. But the funny thing is, if I understand that story correctly, you actually owe a degree of thanks to some of those haters.
Oh, yeah. I find it funny that all those jerky people out there who just want to criticize things that they don't understand or want to exist, that they got me a really fun project to work on. So thank you, jerk faces.
You heard her. Now I got to ask you, does Hayden know about the Spunko cameo you're going to sneak in there?
No, I'll sneak it in someday.
You will. Is that a promise?
We'll see.
And then I'll get sued for copyright infringement.
There we go. That was my plan the whole time.
I'm just waiting for they'll be waiting in line at a coffee shop or the bank or something like that, and the person who's up at the counter will place their order and then just finish the order by saying, "And I'm a clown."
I'm a clown. Yep.
Okay. So Hayden, now although you mentioned a lot of the themes that go into this in terms of the diversity, but also, so you've got themes of trans acceptance, of course, but also a lot of other statements, starting with, again, we mentioned the diversity. Obviously, through Hugh, you've got something to be said there about toxic masculinity. I think there's a little bit in there about mental illness, self-reliance, self-acceptance, materialism, economic populism, and we've already mentioned Fox News, I think, twice. So I'm assuming there's a certain political perspective that you're coming at from this. Is there any way you might want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, look, it's not like I hide my politics too well, because I don't. I have no desire to. I definitely lean left.
Okay.
And I'm fascinated by the toxicity of some of those on the right who both espouse Christianity and in the same breath, are just saying that the vilest things about other people.
Right.
I find the hypocrisy fascinating. It just really the hold that religion has on us as human beings and what we've turned it into. I don't believe in any religion myself. Mm-hmm. I think that if I'm to meet somebody halfway and say, okay, sure, something designed all of this. Let's take into account what all of this is. So everything from the stuff that makes up the universe, gravity and all the elements and so on and so forth that allow us to exist and live, right down to a subatomic level and a quantum level that we're just scratching the surface on, but certainly we know already doesn't make any sense in the macro physical world.
Yes.
And And you're going to tell me that the thing, the being, the entity that created this thinks, looks, acts like a human?
Right.
That is the most arrogant thing that we as humans can say, you know.
Well,
I always pictured the intelligent designer as a kid playing Spore and just like, oh, look at these things I made.
Well, you know, the more we look at quantum mechanics and physics, the more it looks like this could be a bloody video game that we live in. You
sure.
know? But that's a subject for a screenplay that I'm going to do next. Seriously, actually, it's something that's been brewing for a while. Particularly, I just think that people's stories should be told. I don't think that anyone should be hiding. I don't think anybody should be forced to live in the margins. You know, I think the 20th trans death happened 2 nights ago. This year alone, and these are all just hate crimes. It's not. You know, we're not talking about just regular murder or regular murder. Listen to me.
Well, you know, someone stepped to the street of a car and a car hit them by accident. We're not including.
Let's face it. There are some people, right? I mean, come on. No, I know. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. That, yeah.
So yeah, so I want to be able to. I don't want to be bound, or to normal storytelling or not normal storytelling. The type of average storytelling that we've become used to. In the West, the kind of storytelling that is dictated by networks, making money, which is what they're supposed to do. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. Right. But of course, that means that the programming that they accept and run with is lowest common denominator. Yeah. It's not meant to rock the boat. It's not meant to really say anything.
Behold your liberal media.
Yeah. And so here we are now. Well, we can do what we want. We can say what we want. We can start conversations.
Right.
Transparent has done an amazing job of that over on Amazon. Orange is the New Black has started that on, I think that's Netflix.
Yes.
And so these are networks that are being born out of the future. They're not tied into the business models that have created the same kind of storylines that we've seen over and over again. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And so, I want to play in that world. I have already played in that world with Goodnight Burbank and Abigail, and I want to continue and do a show that again just is different, and explores unconventional stories and takes darker elements and finds the comedy in them.
Mm. Now, this is really for both of you. Now, speaking of this new media and of the series you mentioned on Amazon and Netflix, Orange is the New Black and Transparent. Now, there's been a lot said and written lately about this, about the as it's been called, the transgender tipping point. There's been a lot of new representation, some good, some somewhat misguided in the popular media of late. And I'm wondering if this is for both of you. Do you see this as a true tipping point, and it's a trend that's going to continue to grow, continue to become normalized? Or is there some risk that this is a passing phase and that, Hollywood, if you will, or whatever, will move on and fall back into old habits a year or two from now?
I personally don't think so. One of the major reasons is because they don't have, I know this is going to sound really terrible, so I'm going to preface it with this is going to sound terrible. Okay. But they don't have the token minority and gay represented, like shock value anymore. So like, I remember in the 90s, for instance, if you wanted to show that the day was progressive and, this was a futuristic movie, you'd make the president black.
Right.
And
we'll never have a black president.
Oh my God, black president. And it's not a thing anymore. That's just.
Right.
Oh, look, frankly, there's never going to be a black president. Let's just face that now.
Yeah.
We'll never be ready for it. I know that much. As a country.
Freak me out if it happened, but it won't. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
For future generations, this interview is taking place in 2015. So yes, we're joking. Just so if 20 years from now somebody's listening to this and go, God, do they know? Do they know what's going to happen?
But yeah, and then also with gay representation too, it's like it's just such not a thing anymore that people just accept it for the most part. I mean, there are going to be people who throw up their arms and scream, what about the children? But anyway, but now, so Hollywood is always looking for that edgy thing.
Right.
And unfortunately and fortunately right now, that thing is transgender people.
Right.
Again, it's a double-edged sword. It's a great thing because getting trans people out in the spotlight and being like, this is a thing. This is what these people deal with on a daily basis.
Right.
Which that's fantastic. But it's a double-edged sword also, as I think like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That kind of show, for instance, had a trans character once, of course, played by a real woman.
Right.
And the whole joke was, oh my God, you used to be a dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, of course, there's always the good with the bad, but it's
well, that's always going to go on. I wanted to write a trans character in a show for a few years now, and this is Gen Zed is not the first; it's the first that's being produced.
Okay.
I wrote a script a number of years ago, and it was with a studio, and the studio at the time the particular character was a repressed gay drummer in this script, and the guy in the studio was like, we want to make this dark. Can you tweak that? And we got to the drummer character, and this guy said, "Look, why don't you make him, just open and not repressed, but he's big and campy."
Right.
So it's a studio, so I'm like, "Oh well, I'm taking all your notes on board. I'll go home and see what I can do."
Yeah.
So I go home and start to write, and get the drummer character and start to write out. He's, campy, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, we've seen this a bazillion times before.
Right.
And then I started to write it back the way I'd originally envisioned it. And then I thought, well, I've seen that a bazillion times before, too. And that's when it occurred to me to go with a trans character, because we hadn't seen that properly. This was 5 or 6 years ago. And I brought that back in, and the guy looked at me, and he smiled. And he said, "Oh, this is great." He goes, "Chicks with dicks. This is going to be hysterical."
Oh, God.
And I found my voice at that point. I put my foot down and very politely said, "No." And this is the first time I'd used that word with the studio. I said, "No, that's not what I'm thinking. Actually, what I'm thinking is just a. And he stops me and he's like, "No, Hayden. It's chicks with it." He says, "Look at the success of Will and Grace, and they make fun of gay people." I said, "Well, yeah, but they're all gay. They get to do that. That's their privilege.
Right.
None of us in this room are gay or trans, and so we can't do that. And it would be unconscionable to do that."
Right.
And so he was like, "Oh, well, write what you want, like giving up on me type of thing." And I wrote the script the way I wanted. And the character the way I wanted her to be. And he saw the script later and he goes, "You know what?" He goes, you proved me wrong. You nailed it. And what did I do to nail this? What did I do to make this trans character so unbelievable? I just made her a normal human being.
Right.
That was it. There was no titillation thrown in there. There was nothing else. It was just that. Ultimately, the studio went bankrupt and nothing happened. As your typical Hollywood ending.
Yeah.
But it led me to really want to make sure that I did this well.
Right.
In fact, I remember this guy saying to me, "Well, who would we cast in this?" And I remember saying in the first meeting that question came up, and I'm like, "Well, obviously a trans actress, obviously." Yeah. And then we were in another meeting, and he brought up the question again as if I hadn't answered him the first time, or as if he hadn't listened to me the first time.
Right.
Who would we get to play this? And I'm like, a transgender actress. And he looks at me and he goes, "There aren't any." And I went, "No, there are no roles, mate. There are plenty of actresses."
Right.
And I'm happy to have been proven right on that note.
Yeah.
I think that to answer your question in a bigger picture, I think we've seen over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we've seen this, the whole LGBT movement move forward in fits and starts. Mm-hmm. And in particular with trans, I mean, you look at the state of music in glam rock in the early 70s with Bowie and how there was definitely kind of a trans element, certainly a gender blur element to music back then.
Right.
And then again in the early 80s with the New Romantics.
Mm-hmm.
And it never really took off. It was there. It showed that there was acceptance and love and understanding and appreciation, but it never took off. And I think that over the years, especially with Will and Grace and Modern Family, both, I think, really helping sell the concept of gay marriage to America, because that America went from no, we don't like gay marriage to yes, we're fine with it really quickly. Well, and so you've got to look, what are the cultural markers that help that happen? And I think it was these TV shows that showed gay men again as normal people, nothing to be scared of.
Right. They could be a comedy, but they were not the butt of the jokes. They were funny without being the joke being on them, without being the punchline.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that, so now here we are in 2015, and I think that culturally we're trying to take things a bit more seriously anyway. I mean, the politically correct thing right now is going to some serious extremes with the millennial generation. It's laughable at the kind of offense that they're going to take to pretty much everything.
Oh, I've run into that myself now several times. I wish I.
And I'm paying no attention to it, because my perspective is this: I know that A, I'm a good person, and B, that we all make mistakes anyway, as long as we learn from them and evolve from them.
Right.
And so, if I'm going to write comedy that's edgy, I want to make sure that comedy is coming from the right place.
Sure.
Like here's an example. Yesterday, I wrote a joke on Twitter. I read in the news that the Oregon shooter, the tragedy that happened last week, his mother was claiming that the kid was autistic, very lightly autistic, but also, and in this interview, she goes on to say how whilst the kid was still in the womb, she read him aloud Donald Trump's Art of the Deal. So the joke kind of wrote itself. That
yes.
You could possibly end up with mental damage.
Right, right.
And so this was not a slam in the slightest against, autistic people in any way, shape, or form. It's a joke about Donald Trump.
Obviously. But, let me bless this for you. Let me bless this joke for you. I have 2 autistic sons, and I'm not offended by that joke at all. Okay.
And I'm glad, because you shouldn't be, because it's not intended to. It's intended to offend Donald Trump.
Right, right. No, but I've run afoul of that myself.
Online will take, certainly the 4chan, 8chan Kiwi Farm crowd are going to find their mock outrage in it, and but point is some people are going to read what they want to into content. Absolutely. Just because either they're ignorant themselves, or they're looking to stir trouble, or whatever. So I'm not going to let this politically correct group, regardless of where they come from, get to me. Right. Because I know that where I'm coming from is a good place. Yes. And I know that if I mess up, that I can apologize and learn and move on. Right. Because if I couldn't do that, I wouldn't be human. I'd rather do that than just stick my head in the sand and say no, I'm right, because I wrote a joke that was
no shortage of people who do that.
didn't communicate what I was trying to communicate correctly. Because that's also a hazard you can run into.
Oh yeah.
But it's just about putting your comedy out there, finding like I said, back to this whole, are we moving forward with the LGBT thing? I think we are. Mm-hmm. I think we are, and I think that we're going to do it in a way that we're in a smarter place, I think, culturally, despite the extremes of some of this political correctness.
Right.
I think that people doing shows like this, and again, like Transparent and Orange is the New Black, etc. They're coming from good places. They may stumble, but that's okay. Because we're all human and we don't know everything.
Right.
None of us do, but we learn. And we learn from our mistakes. And that's kind of the tactic we're taking, is making sure that we do stuff that really talks to people, really, and is as true as possible. That's really where we're coming from. Truth. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of comedy in truth.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I mean, that's the best kind. Now, Terra, from your personal perspective, I mean, is there anything you'd like to add to that in terms of what this project gets right that so many others have gotten wrong?
Well, again, I think one of the big elements that this show does, as opposed to others, I can't say too much because I don't want to give the plot away. You're going to have to watch the show. Right. But it shows the goods and the bads of being in the community and being an LGBT, especially trans. Like, for instance, if there's moments where you have to joke about it because otherwise you'd just be too sad all the time. And then there's the moments to be sad.
Right.
Like it's a comedy show, but it's got its moments. Like I've read the scripts and I got to say, I was like, oh yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, phew. That was intense and fantastic.
Yeah, and Julie mentioned a couple weeks ago that some of the scenes, like particularly, I asked her about the intervention scene because that seemed to really parallel a lot of her personal story at one point in her life, and she'd mentioned that hit pretty close to home. Although she's like, I'm an actress, I compartmentalize, move on. But I'm curious if there's anything. I mean, I guess having read through it, I mean, so there's been things that have hit you particularly hard. I mean, anything that you feel would. I mean, is there any like difficulty in getting through a scene like that, or I mean, anything hit that close to home?
Well, Eddie, anyone in the industry will say, just like she said, that you have to compartmentalize and be able to do these things. Like, because I've played characters when I've done acting, all the way from schizophrenics to clinically depressed to on methamphetamine within an hour of each other.
Sounds like my average afternoon, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But, doing like gigs and stuff like that. So if you can't deal with that and compartmentalize it, you're going to come home and just have an emotional breakdown.
Yeah, you don't want to take your work home with you when that's been your afternoon. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so even when you're an artist or a writer or things like that, it comes from the heart, but you have to be able to separate that. Otherwise, you'll go insane.
I was going to say, we had an interesting moment when I was playing back one of the mixes that we just got back from our editor to Julie. And it was one of the episodes that has one of these really big moments in it. And it was really fascinating and interesting. Even though she'd recorded this, she'd read the script a million times before we recorded it. She'd recorded it, etc. When I played it back, there were tears in her eyes. She was like she was here for the first time without having to compartmentalize.
Right.
She was just now listening to it as a listener,
Yeah.
And it was fascinating how powerful that was.
Huh.
But Julie she was phenomenal throughout it. And I think, as Terra says, you've got a project, you understand that one of the elements to this project is educating people to things that happen in other people's lives.
Right.
Not yours. And we have to get through those moments to get that, on tape, so to speak, to get that done and out into the world.
Is there a specific thing, I mean, if you could narrow it down to a specific thing, is there something that, what would you say you want people to take away from this the most then?
You know what? As with any comedy, I hope you take away some really good laughs, some really funny moments. However, I'm just a big believer in saying stuff, putting stuff together in your artwork that says something more than just here, laugh at this joke.
Right.
And I think in this, there are a couple of messages. One is to the younger trans community. You see the tragedy that was the Leela Alcorn story that, by the way, plays out every day, I'm sure, in this country, not covered. Younger trans girls don't realize that it does get better.
And boys, don't forget trans boys.
It's true.
And trans boys. And also the fact that, if you don't start taking hormones by 18 and it's all over, which is one of the things Leela committed suicide over, which is not the case.
Right.
So if we can help with some trans kids' lives, boys and girls, that would be amazing. And then the other big thing is I think my biggest message in this thing is this: every single one of us, it doesn't matter who we are, has shit on our plates to deal with on a daily basis.
Right.
And so none of us need anybody else to give us more shit to deal with. Right?
Yeah.
That's fucking simple. So if we show lives that are different, that some people might judge and give shit to, maybe they'll realize, oh, they're just humans like I am, and they don't have a rule book either. And guess what? There is no fucking rule book. And so maybe I don't have to give them shit. Maybe I'll just let them, maybe I'll give a pass today.
Right.
And grow a little and evolve a little. that would be a wonderful message to get out there. That's kind of well buried between the lines. It's nothing I would ever, come out and say.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like you're trying to get rid of religion or something there.
Like that's never going to happen. No, you know what? Here's the irony. I've no interest in wanting to get rid of religion whatsoever. If nothing else, your basic Christian tenet is love one another.
Right.
And so my message to everybody else is, well, then fucking love one another. It's that simple.
Yeah.
There are two basic messages in the Bible: worship me, one God, and love everybody else. So you know what? If that person over there is gay and clearly were born that way, let them live their life. Right. And don't judge them. The Bible says to you, don't judge. And so, if gay people are going to wind up in this hell that the Christians believe in, mm-hmm. You by judging them are going to the same hell because you are breaking the same rules.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not about no religion. No. I'm about just fucking love one another. That's it. And if you can't love your fellow man, put up with them and ignore them and don't give them shit.
Right. Absolutely.
And please, no one gives that person shit back either,
Yeah. So
that's a basic message about religion.
Anything to add to that, Tara? Anything you'd like to see people take away from that, or anything that you've taken away, perhaps?
Well, again, I got a mirror. I hope people laugh at it because I do find this whole thing funny. The whole show is fantastic, and I wouldn't be a part of it if it wasn't funny. Mm-hmm. But also, I would love for people to be in another person's shoes, see what it's like to grow up in the foster system, see what it's like to be in an abusive family relationship, see what it's like to be a transgender person. See what it's like to be neglected and over-medicated. It's live via proxy so you can get understanding for everyone in the world and then be able to say, that must have been rough. I can put myself there and make their lives better because of it, and my life better, and everyone's lives better. So,
right. I'm curious if there were certain other series or works that you were looking to either for guidance of how to get it right or perhaps mistakes not to repeat, or do you tend to come into these projects with trying to keep more of a clean slate and not look to other areas? Anything of particular of note?
A little bit of everything. I mean, there were indeed two shows that were that served as big inspirations for Gen Zed. The first was that anarchic, punk, brilliant British comedy of the 80s, The Young Ones.
Yes.
And in fact, I actually modeled very loosely two of the characters in Gen Zed off of two of the characters in The Young Ones.
Okay.
In The Young Ones, Rick was the bad poet, and in this one, Cameron is the bad poet, and Vivian, The Young Ones, was the lunatic, almost cartoon, violent character.
Right.
And that's what Huey embodies. Only, ironically, less cartoonish because we give the explanation as to why he is the way he is.
Right. Except
and then the second comedy that was a big tribute thing. I can't think of the words right now. It was a big influence. Excuse me. Was Spaced, the Simon Pegg comedy.
Okay.
Jessica Stevens and Edgar Wright. They crafted just this absolutely perfect, amazing comedy. I think that was the late 90s. They did 2 seasons, and there was a certain whimsy to it. There was a certain just amazing quality that Edgar Wright brought to it. It was just very out there and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I wanted that to be so because originally this was live action. So for example, when when I had them visiting the SoundCloud, I had them suddenly inside the SoundCloud. Obviously, it's easy to visualize when it's an animated show, but originally, as a live action show, that's the quality that I wanted from Spaced. And as far as learning lessons and stuff, I'm just trying to be the best possible person I can be. Is that perfect? Christ, no. Is it me? Yeah. And am I learning as I continue on my journey through this thing we call life? Yeah. And I'm hoping I get it right. And what I don't get right, I'm certainly, I'm surrounding myself with people who can let me know if I'm making a mistake. We have trans actresses, we have colorists, animators, 3D animators, as we know, consultants, people working in the graphics on this. So I've got people there to let me know if I go too far in the wrong direction,
right?
Do anything like that. I think I'm very happy to say that so far there was only one joke that Julie looked at me and went, "No, not that one," and it was great. It was like, I'm glad my batting average so far is one joke.
Right. That's yeah. And now, I mean, did you think for a moment to defend that joke, or did you just take that and
no? Well, what? I'm not going to say what the joke was because.
Oh, I know.
But I will tell you where it came from. While rewriting the script, I came upon this idea. It was a very cheesy idea, but very funny idea, very silly, corny idea that Betsy's character will keep saying she uses, musicians' names in bad puns.
Yes.
So if something's not going right, she'll say, "Oh, Shitney Houston."
Right.
That kind of a thing. And so there was the sequence where Shona reveals to Betsy that she's trans.
Yeah.
And Betsy's response was to go with these bad puns.
Yeah.
And I wrote 3 in. I was never going to use 3 anyway.
Yeah.
There's just too many.
Yeah.
But I wrote them all in there saying, basically with the idea of which one do we like the best. Right. I did that with a bunch of different of these types of jokes.
Sure.
But this particular one was about her, trans status.
Right.
So that joke was, it was a bad pun on a musician's name that was a little too far. And, I was writing all these daft names and just giggling and having fun. And it was all, it's all fun and games until someone puts an eye out.
Yeah. Okay.
She was like, not that one.
Right,
I was like, okay, you're right. I was just like, you just become a machine. You generate.
Oh yeah. You just whipping out ideas. Sure. Now I'm curious about the humor too, because now I'm a huge fan, of course, of Monty Python. I'm a huge fan of the Blackadder. I remember the young ones from back in the day and all that. I'm curious. Now you mentioned you came to America many years ago. Do you find, because there's a difference between British humor and American humor to some extent. Where do you find yourself on that spectrum?
That's a great question.
Or do you not think? Am I misguided to say that? Am I misguided to say it that way?
No, not at all. I think, look, I've got 4 characters, for example, 4 main characters.
Right.
Actually worked out to 6 main characters, but what I've tried to do is add elements of all kinds. So you'll get some physical shtick, you'll get some cerebral stuff.
Right.
I try and mix my particular style of comedy stew. God, listen to me, pontificate in the worst way possible. But I want to make my particular brand of comedy. I want to give it the best parts of both society's humor.
Yeah. Okay.
And also the most translatable parts. So it's people can get the intelligence, people can get the silly stuff, people can get the ironic stuff, people can get everything in between. Hopefully.
Right. Okay. What's and this, I guess, put this out for either of you. What's been the most challenging part of the whole project so far?
Terry, you want to take that first?
Well, for me, so far, it's actually just been a blast. Only thing has been time management for myself, because unfortunately, right now, this is we're doing a labor of love. It's a pilot, so you can only spend so many hours in the day dedicated to something when you're not out there looking for bread money. So I wish I could. Hardest part is not being able to do it all the time.
You got an enthusiastic person there, Hayden.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very lucky.
That's blessed. Yeah, that's my thing. I actually when I first moved out to California, because I moved from Denver to California, I was didn't have a job, and so I had a lot of time, and I was doing work on this and other things, and just was having such fun with it, just making it, doing it, like producing wicked amounts of content in a very short quotation mark amount of time. I'd start work at 11 a.m. and then all of a sudden realize it's 3 a.m. the next day, without just really realizing, I'm like, why am I hungry?
I've never had that problem. So.
I was gonna say, I haven't had that problem either. Wow.
But yeah, now, but yeah, so that's the big wish for me is that soon this will be my job. 100%. This is what I do.
Right.
And so that's only been the hardest part. Otherwise, I've been making spaceships. I've been doing 3D designs for characters. I make aliens and stuff. I just get to have fun with it. So yeah.
Hey,
that's pretty cool. I guess the irritant once we got somebody posted the trailer on these these 4chan 8chan type websites.
I was going to ask you about the reception it's gotten. So yeah, go on.
Within a week they'd taken down the YouTube page. The messages that we were sent on all the various social platforms and are still sent are just some of the vilest, most obscene, racist, anti-Semitic, transphobic, homophobic comments you could dream of seeing.
So really constructive.
My favorite one so far was when someone said I was like, oh, who was it? Oh darn it! One of the terrorists, one of the big name terrorists out there. They just said like, yeah, Al Qaeda is good at doing their job too, and I'm just like, wow, and that one was just good. Like, I was impressed by that one.
The outrage over a 2-minute cartoon is phenomenal, and if nothing else, it shows that we've got something incredibly special on our hands because thousands of 2-minute trailers and videos are uploaded to YouTube hourly, and for us to cause this much consternation on a trailer,
right? I mean, it'd be worse
than the mock outrage that follows, and this. It's just, I don't read the boards. A couple of people do, and tell me what people say on them, and there's they want to take down the Wikipedia page that was created for me by someone once.
Actually, I tried looking you up earlier today, and it's down again.
Well, there you go. I give a shit, but at the same time, it's just this constant. And you know what I liken it to? It's this buzzing. They're like a hive mind with no brain.
Oh yeah.
There's no narrative. I don't fit the narrative that they want, so they try and change the narrative on a daily basis.
Right.
And it's like they're taking things personally because I did a 2-minute trailer, and it's it's laughable. Who are these people, and what lives don't they have? Incredible. And the videos that people have posted. Somebody posted a 25-minute video that was a smackdown of our 2-minute trailer.
Right.
And I had 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, let me listen to, I'm not going to listen to 25 solid minutes of this crap. Right. But it was like this guy sounded like he was about 500 pounds because of his breathing. It sounded like he was on Ambien because he just kept losing the plot. And it was things of, like complaints like, I don't like Gen Zed because this people is not whining. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense what you're saying, but you went on for 25 minutes. So good for you, sir.
I have to say,
on it, that imagination, collectively, and try and do something good with it. Right. One of them tried to defend themselves yesterday and said, we here at Gamergate,
oh Jesus,
we because a lot of them don't like what we're doing. Surprise!
What do those assholes like? Seriously, I mean, I don't know why that even exists.
One of them said, we're good people because we set up a fund for people commit suicide. And my response to that was, stop driving people to suicide in the first place. That would be a much better thing to do.
And they could save money.
They could just pocket that money and be happy about it.
I gotta say, because I also went on. When I couldn't find anything, when I couldn't find you on Wikipedia, because I had to brush up on my notes, earlier today. I went looking on YouTube because I knew there was some stuff out there, and not only, it was a lot of garbage, but it was all. I saw 5 different videos by 5 different people that could have been reading off the same script. They all had the same thing to say. And it was all just completely idiotic. I mean, nothing constructive, nothing, just like, why do you have to spend 20 minutes talking about something you didn't like for 2 minutes?
So it really does suggest that there's something really special here. Yep. I'll tell you something funny. I took a Lyft ride about a few weeks ago, and it just when it just started.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mentioning it to the Lyft driver about this is just so ridiculous and so over the top and like utterly unwarranted. And 3 days ago, I took a Lyft, and it was the same driver.
Right.
And he says, I watched Gen Zed. I watched the trailer. And he said, I went and watched some of these other videos. And I said, oh, yeah. And he said, he said it was all just such made up crap. He said, I didn't see anything in it that any of them had to say. None of it made any real sense.
Right.
I'm like, but they continue to do it, and they will continue to do it. So bless their little cotton socks. They've got something to do. We're keeping them off the streets.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's just it. The last thing we need is everyone then wandering around making everybody else's life miserable out there, right?
Yeah, give them something to do.
God bless you. God bless
they can bond with each other over how inane their videos and comments are, and who's on more inane, who's on more stupid.
I do have one thing to say to them out there, and this is just work on your grammar, guys. If you're going to hate something, at least have good grammar with it. And this is coming from the dyslexic girl. So
yeah, the grammar is fairly atrocious. Well, it's hard to take anything seriously when it looks like it was written by somebody who, English is their seventh language.
Come on, this is America.
America, I don't like you. I hate you. So yeah, it's really hard taking any of it remotely seriously.
Right. Well, I have to give them credit for two things. One, of course, Terra, they got you together with Hayden and
yes. And by the way, I'd like to thank them all for that too. Thank you, guys.
All right. So you guys are helping. You guys are helping. The other thing is, if I had any doubts as to the intelligence of the show that I'm putting on, all I had to do was listening to these guys who have put up thousands of videos on YouTube and sound utterly idiotic the entire time. So I have to say thanks for the encouragement there. Now, shifting.
And thanks thanks for the giggles, because I got to say, I've had some fun just reading some of these. They're fantastic. They're just entertaining in such all the wrong ways.
If you can't laugh at it, right? So shifting gears a little bit, and we talked a little bit about this before the show, but I noticed that you're a bit of a Whovian. So right off the bat, obvious question: who's the best doctor? Seriously.
Tom Baker. There's not even a question.
Thank you. I was Terra. Do you agree with that?
I gotta say, for the old school, yes, Tom Baker is one of the best. I really do enjoy the first guy, though.
The first guy. You're gonna have to refresh my memory.
Arnold or first guy, Christopher
Eccleston.
Oh, okay. So what would that be? The ninth?
So the ninth guy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, so wait a second. So now I'm totally with you, Hayden. I mean, of course, now I'm full American and in my 40s, so Tom Baker is pretty much the one I know the best, and that's, I think. But
here's why. Why I think so. I think Tom Baker, as a human being, has a natural otherworldliness to him. He has that's part of his personality.
Yeah.
And he brought that to bear in Doctor Who, and Doctor Who, being an alien for the first time, was being played by the closest thing to an alien we have here on Earth. And I think that's why he was so magnetic in the role.
He was
funny,
too.
And then, of course, nothing is singular. You got to throw in Philip Hinchcliffe, and I'm blanking on the head writer's name, Robert. Anyway, him, and of course, the supporting cast of Sarah Jane, Elizabeth Sladen and Harry Martyr.
Yeah, no,
Ian Martyr playing Harry. And,
right. That was the best. When the three of them were together, those were the best episodes. Agreed.
Yeah, there was like 3 years of the most magical episodes ever.
Yeah.
And of course, have to excuse the budget, which I assume was determined at the beginning of each episode with a whip round. Somebody threw the hat out and say, okay, everyone put money in here and this is how much we'll spend on the show.
Right.
As long as you can put that behind you.
Yeah.
I think the shows, the 74 through 77 seasons are just magical.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what it spawned. In fact, I actually think the Zygons, the original Zygons, I actually like the look better than the modern day Zygons. Mm-hmm. I think that's one thing that they didn't get it quite right.
Huh.
But in terms of the modern day stuff, David Tennant was fantastic.
Yeah.
Eccleston brought a kind of a movie gravitas to the role that we'd never seen before, which I thought was great.
Kind of him to Doctor Who, I think of like Daniel Craig to James Bond, kind of a parallel a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I thought Matt Smith was great. He was much older than his years, and it showed. It was fantastic. And I'm waiting. I was waiting last season for Capaldi to kind of grab it and nail it, and I think he's now grabbed it and nailed it with his second season.
Oh, okay.
With the first 3 episodes we've seen, I think he's really coming into his own.
Okay.
And look, we're Doctor Who fans. We always root for whoever the new actor is playing the Doctor.
But some have
I've
never
been rooting for it from the get-go.
But there are a few that have never quite come around. I mean, let's face it.
Well, if you look at the classics series, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a couple that...
There's some forgettable
But I think for me, the biggest problem with the classic series was when the 80s came along, the John Nathan Turner decided that he would turn on all the lights. And when you have a show with a budget of Tuppence Halfpenny, the last thing you want to do is turn on the lights. It was so brightly lit. And so you could see everything, which, on a show of $2 was not much.
You see all the duct tape on the walls.
Yeah. And then, of course, I think the script suffered as well.
Yeah.
It really went downhill. And it's funny, as being the huge Doctor Who freak that I am, when it was cancelled, I was actually kind of pleased because I figured it will come back in the form it needs to when it needs to.
Right. They'll have the technology. They'll have the budget. There'll be demand for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great concept. You knew it wasn't going to go away forever.
Right.
But it needed to go away when it did because it was kind of awful.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. By the end, that's true. It was wheezing along. Now, I don't have to ask you this, but Tara, I am a little bit curious. Lightsaber, phaser, or sonic screwdriver? Then.
Oh.
And I mean, feel free to drop something else in there if there's a none of the above option. But
I would actually have to say Star Trek Datapad.
Oh. Okay.
I'm a holo novelist at heart.
Okay.
But if I had to go one of those 3, I am a Sith, so yes, lightsaber.
All right. Well, I would say lightsaber from the Jedi standpoint, but that's still an acceptable answer. So.
Hey, the Jedi are the bad guys in those, but that's a whole other thing.
Yes, that is.
Alongside that, the rebels are terrorists, and they killed millions or thousands upon thousands, if not millions of people when they blew up the Death Star.
And I see somebody's also a fan of Clerks.
And it's funny, I'm learning who I've got on board on my crew. And we had a Sith Dark Lord.
The
3D segments.
Many of the truths we cling to depend greatly upon our own point of view. Just remember that.
Big true.
All right. So, Gen Zed, when and where is this going to air? Any news on that front?
Well, we've got a small team. We're chugging away. We're hoping that we can get the pilot episode out by December. We're hoping, fingers crossed.
Okay.
We're in the process of having. We're just starting to have talks with television. We have a meeting in a couple of weeks with our first big network. We'll see where that goes. I don't know. All I can do is make this show the best thing I can make it, and with the help of Terra and Alex and Paul and these other unbelievably talented people, together we are all going to make the best show that we can. And like I said, we hope that the pilot premieres in December, and the rest of the show will follow. Mid to late next year.
And where will people go to find this on the web?
You can find us, the main page is genzed.org. You can find us on Twitter at gen_Z. This is all GENZED, by the way. And we're on Facebook at Gen Z Comedy. We're on Tumblr as Gen Z Comedy. And we're on Instagram, I also think, as Gen Z Comedy.
Okay.
And if you're looking for anything me-related, I am at Twitter at Jade Gear. And then, as always, I have my webcomic, Mock Girl.
At mockgirl.com, correct?
Yeah, just mockgirl.com.
Awesome.
And I will update it again someday, maybe. Ever. Gen Zed's been eating my time a little bit.
Well, it's a good excuse. Yeah, it's a good excuse.
Finish doing Gen Zed before you do that. And if you want my personal Twitter account, it's at Hayden Black.
At Hayden Black. Okay. Well, best of luck. And if there's anything we can do to help you along in terms of publicity or anything else, just let me know through Terra. You can email me directly. I'm happy to do whatever I can for you guys. So, Hayden, Terra, thanks so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate you guys taking your time.
Oh, it was lovely. Thanks for having us.
Always good to be there.
I'd like to thank Hayden and Terra again for coming on the program. Had a great time talking to them. I look forward to the premiere of Gen Zed. I encourage everybody to go check out the trailer. Also, I want to give a heartfelt congratulations to Barbara and Doc on their triumphant release of the 29th anniversary single, Spirit in the Sky. It does release today. You did not hear it on this program. Something to do with somebody not sending somebody a message, or I don't know, something like that. But I don't know. She was holding out on me, folks. What can I say? Anyway, I'm sure everybody's heard it by now, and if not, you'll be hearing it soon because it's going to be number one. It's going to be a hit, and I have heard several of the mixes, and they really are worth checking out. So keep your ears open for that as well. As always, if you have any questions or comments about anything you've heard here tonight, you can email me at niceguy9418@usa.com. You can leave a comment on my blog at eddiecabot.blogspot.com. Follow me on Twitter at NiceGuyEddieCab, Tumblr, NiceGuyEddieCabot. Friend me on Facebook at Eddie Cabot. And also check out my Patreon and eBay stores. Have a good evening and keep on listening to Rainbow Radio.